Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the G Shock Watcher channel. I really want to thank you for sharing some of your time with me today. Now, today is August 30th. We're one day away from the end of the month, and I thought we would take the opportunity to run through some of the news in terms of August. Now, before we get started, a couple of quick things. Watch of the day today is the DW5600 China Porcelain Edition. One of my favorite watches. I do love the color blue. It's a very striking color, but this one particularly, positive display, really easy to be able to go ahead and see. It's got the nice Chinese motif on the inside face of the watch, but the actual resin band and bezel, I guess you'd sort of say. This one I love because of its uniqueness. As they sort of say, each band and bezel is unique because of the swirling effect between the two colors of the resin. So I love this watch. I think it's a really nice, simple, comfortable watch to be able to go ahead and actually wear, and the blue is a very striking color. My background is blue, my wrists are blue. Maybe I like blue, maybe Smurfs, I don't know. But again, and the other point, look, if you do enjoy the videos that I'm actually making, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. It really helps me, drives me, motivates me. I really appreciate your time. Let's get on with it. So we have 6 stories to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of the new collaborations that are either coming out or have come out. We're going to talk about where we're seeing some G-Shocks appear on some celebrity wrists. And we're also going to see G-Shock's journey into the Metaverse. So with that, let's jump into the first story. So the first article talking about Japanese watches. Now, many of you have probably seen these watches before. This is the G Shock DW5600KH. Now, these watches originally, there were 2 flavors. There was the Wave and the Mountain, which is Mount Fuji there. These were watches that were replication of the artwork done by Hokusai. Hokusai was a famous artist from the Edo period in Japan. As you can see, some of these came from 1829, 1832, and were really quite spectacular paintings. I mean, sure, many people have actually seen these paintings somewhere in terms of famous artwork on either notebooks, on posters, a whole range of different things. And G-Shock recreated this imagery in their actual watches. In fact, this came back in January 2025, where they featured those on the 5600s in this release. So these watches have been out for a while, but they were only really available in Japan at the time. Very nice watches. When you went into the illumination, you actually saw the kanji characters for Japan on the screen, and you also have the kanji characters for the watch, kanji characters for Japan on the backplate of the watch itself. Now, what they have done recently is brought these watches now to Europe. So these have now been released. They can be purchased from the Casio website. But it's nice to be able to go ahead and actually see those watches coming out to different markets so other people can experience the culture of Japan, and especially aligned to Casio and G-Shock itself. Now, these watches, in terms of features and capabilities, it's a 5600, just like the one that I actually have here. Nothing very spectacular. It's a simple and a really nice, easy watch to be able to go ahead and wear. So it's got water resistance, it's got a nice positive display, and it's got an alarm. And realistically, when it comes down to a watch, what more could you really ask for from basics? If you wanted a watch for running, sure, get the Garmin, get the Apple Watch, Samsung Galaxy, all those different things. But if you just wanted to wear a watch to sort of knock around and get the time and not be distracted, which I think is super important for many watches, especially when you're, in an age of over-sensitization of alarms and messages and WhatsApp and all those different things, it's nice sometimes just to have that simple sort of watch. So I think it's kind of nice to be able to have these sorts of watches not just being made available in Japan, but also being made available in Europe as well. So good work, G-Shock, on that one. Now, also in August was the release of the Action Bronson Baklava G Shock GA 2100 AB 25-5A Desert King. Whew, that was a mouthful to read, but this particular watch has been released. It's a GA 2100 watch. If we go down and have a look, what we can sort of see here, it retains that very famous GA 2100 style. What's kind of different about this watch is the sort of red LCD or digital display there in the bottom right of the watch itself, and then also I guess the not really a resin band on the actual watch itself, but more of a nylon or fabric sort of band from that point of view, with the actual bull bars. This watch itself, if we go down and have a look at it on shock base, carbon core guard. Interesting, it says here no bull bar, but there's looks like to me that there's a bull bar on the watch. Water resistance of 200 meters, 5 alarms, world time, cities. I mean, it's got all the functionality. No tough solar, no multi-band 6. But if you just wanted a knock-around watch and wanted that branding of Action Bronson, his baklava watch came out in August, and they had a raffle for it. You could try and go ahead and actually get it on the website, but everywhere I've kind of looked, it would appear that these watches have been sold out for now. So a bit hard to be able to go ahead and actually find. Action Bronson himself, he is a American rapper and TV host, does a whole lot of stuff around food shows and traveling around, all these different things. Obviously goes for more of the aggressive look. This is where we actually see the watch on his site. So they had a raffle for $261. That is now closed. And in terms of the actual Casio website that was promoting it as well, it's now at Notify Me versus purchasing. On the back plate of this watch, if we go and have a look, we've got the baklava. I always get confused between the word baklava. I'm sure it's the same word they use for the traditional Greek dessert. It's interesting to use it here. But he's got on the back of that particular watch the globe. Talks about worldwide. I mean, yeah, I guess he does a lot of traveling and things like that from that point of view, and sells a lot of additional products. So I guess if you were a big fan of Action Bronson and those watches, well, you might have missed your chance. Maybe you'll be able to pick it up secondhand in the future there. But that was a watch which was teased for a while ago and is now pretty much out of stock everywhere. So you'll have to hunt them down from that point of view. Hats and t-shirts also available, but pretty much out of stock. So it is what it is, but that's life. These watches come and go. If you want to grab them, you've got to grab them pretty quickly, or try and find them on the secondhand market. So our next story then comes down to Converse, and another collaboration which we're going to do here is Converse Tokyo celebrates their 10th anniversary with G Shock DW5600. DW5600, very popular watch. We'll be talking a lot more about it today. But Converse Tokyo, what's interesting about Converse Tokyo, I've been to their shops in Japan with my daughter, and they told me when I went there is that the brand for Converse in Tokyo is not necessarily the same Converse which is available internationally. And if I remember the story right, Converse in Japan is owned by a different company. Converse everywhere else is owned by Nike, I think, or it's Adidas. I'm not too sure. It might be Nike. So what they can do with Converse in Tokyo is they do shoes a little bit differently. And I remember buying a pair of Converse shoes in Tokyo that had that same sort of look of the Chuck All-Star Converse shoes, but had this really big base on it. And I was concerned at the time. I said, are these girls' shoes or men's shoes? And they told me they were unisex shoes. So yeah, why not? I'll go ahead and actually buy them. And then my daughter got some shoes customized downstairs. And I think that customization effort you can do with a lot of different brands of shoes now. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun to personalize your own shoes. So Converse has done this collaboration with G Shock to bring out a DW5600 watch. And so if we go down and have a look on the back here, this watch has the 10-year anniversary on the back. And then on the front, very hard to go ahead and actually see. But if we try and zoom in, you can actually see the watch itself. It's a standard sort of resin watch, but it's got the Converse star on the front in purple on that particular watch. In fact, if we go back over to the 10th anniversary site, we can go through and have a closer look at this. Here's the actual watch itself. So it's a negative display on the actual watch. It is a very interesting band, very pretty sort of band with the flowers, all sorts of paraphernalia, I guess you would actually say, on the watch. If we go back and have a look at that backplate a little closer, 10th anniversary. What's interesting here is that the brand model, the DW5600X. Now, of course, as soon as I see the model numbers, I'll go ahead and look at Shockbase and try and determine what is the features on these particular watches. And when I did this, it came up with 0. There was no DW5600X. But upon research, this DW5600X model has come up multiple times. It's come up for a limited edition watch with Brothers Cut Club. So if we go down and have a look, they've got their watch here, which has their own sort of branding and stylings on the actual watch. Brothers logo on the back, and we can clearly see the DW5600X designation. And then there was also a DW5600X for this one, which was a Kinasi collaboration model from Japan, which had a sort of very interesting design on the bands from that point of view. We can see on the back here the backplate of that particular logo and the DW5600X as well. So this DW5600X seems to be the go-to model, but it does change. Like, some of them actually have a positive display, some of them have a negative display. So I guess there's variations. It's just basically this might be the model that do the collaborations on. So very nice to see the Tokyo Converse and the G Shock brands coming together. Two very strong Japanese brands around fashion, doing something nice from a collaboration point of view. So nice work there from the Converse Tokyo and G Shock people as well. Now, the last collaboration I want to talk about that was announced, or at least came on the news on G Central for August, was a G Shock collaboration with Nigo. And they were sort of, marketing this sort of gooey plasticine sort of look for these particular watches. And so they talk about the date of August 22nd, 2025 and coming soon. Now, I was trying to work out who was Nigo, and apparently Nigo is very, very big. And this maybe betrays the fact that I'm not a very fashionable person at all. But Nigo as a person, if I come over here, he is much older than me, a fashion designer, disc jockey, record producer, and entrepreneur. So he was behind the whole Bape scene, so bathing ape. And I've certainly seen a lot of these things around the marketplace. I see Bape all the time, and I know in the past G Shock has done some collaborations on the Bape brand before. So obviously they're no stranger to working with this particular designer Nigo in terms of the watches he actually does. And Bape is certainly very, very popular in Asia for their iconography, their branding and things like that. So very busy individual, obviously. And he's doing another collaboration around this particular one, which is this Nigo and G Shock. And so that plasticine sort of comes back into these four characters. So there's Goro, there's Rock, there's Wang Teng, and then there's Duno. And I hope I'm pronouncing these all correctly. They're simple enough to spell, I guess, so I'm hoping I'm getting them right. But each of these different watches align to different characters align to a different watch. And so for Goro, it's the DW5000 and 5600, which again, as I sort of said, very, very popular watch that you could do collaborations and designs on. The second one is then the DW6900. So that is this particular watch, and we'll talk a little bit about this one later on. The next one after that is the GA110, which is this particular watch, very famous one as well. And then the last one is the GA2100, which is this particular watch, the watch which people love to go ahead and modify, including myself, into things like Casio watches and those sorts of designs. And so yeah, I mean, very, very popular watches. And again, this may be something we've talked about in the past with the Casio strategy around G Shock. They're looking at combining multiple classic models together into singular campaigns, and they've covered all four of those models here: the 5600s, as we saw, I can't even remember them, but the DW 5600, the 6900, the GA 110, and the GA 2100. I had to look at the screen to be able to get all those right. But these are those iconic watch styles. And so what they've obviously done here is collaborated with Nigo to take all four styles and bring them together under a single advertising campaign. And that strategy was something that Casio talked about in their financial reports that they wanted to do more of. And so what they've done here is worked with Nigo to be able to bring all those together in this sort of classic plasticine mode, I guess. It'll be interesting to see what that campaign actually is. So the page is there, but there's nothing really about where these watches are available from that point of view. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out and how popular it actually is. In terms of where it will be released, I would guess they're targeting certainly ASEAN countries. It'll probably come out in Japan as well. But at this date, nothing particular about availability, just the branding and the coming soon from that point of view. So interesting to see what Nigo and G Shock are going to do with these particular watches. Okay, now on to our second last story. I'm going to switch over and talk about some celebrity action here. So Taylor Kitsch, I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Taylor Kitsch in the TV series Terminal List Dark Wolf, which I believe is a prequel to a show called Terminal List on Amazon Prime that involved Chris Pratt. It's something I keep downloading to my tablet to watch when I'm flying, and I keep forgetting to watch it. I've got a flight to Japan on Monday. I may go ahead and actually try and take some time to watch Terminal List, but from what I understand, this Terminal List Dark Wolf is kind of a prequel, if I'm getting that right. I'm sure somebody can actually tell me in the comments how much I've gotten it wrong. But in this particular show, it's been noticed that he is wearing a DW 6900 in this particular show. And if we go down and have a look, we can sort of barely see it on his hand here that he's wearing a DW 6900. So the DW 6900, very, very popular watch with a lot of military personnel. Again, it's not a complicated watch. Casio has really made sure they've taken out the complications of the particular watch from this point of view. It's got the capabilities of water resistance. It's got an alarm. It's got a stopwatch, all those different things. So popular with people for its simplicity, and obviously very, very popular for the military from that point of view. You'd kind of think sometimes that maybe a rangeman or a mudman is more for the military because those things have compasses and barometers and things like that. But obviously when it's being represented in the media, and I've sure seen imagery of military people wearing G Shock watches, and especially these DW 6900s, it must be very, very popular. It might be something I have to hunt down when I'm in Japan next week because I really don't own one of these, and maybe I probably should. Now, what's interesting about this particular watch, and it was hard to sort of note, when I did look at the watch here, the band itself is something very, very different, and I couldn't quite work out what it was. I did go through and look at all the individual DW 6900 watches to see if I could find something that had a band similar to what he was wearing, but I couldn't find it. So I had to go back and look at the pictures again, and it was this picture up top. If we go up here and have a look, it looks to me like it is a custom band that's attached to that particular watch, like a woven band that might be sort of more comfortable to wear on his particular wrist. I can't get a closer look at it without losing too much quality, but I kind of feel like it's one of those bands which is the braided bands, or the one that there's a material that can actually be used, which sort of makes it very comfortable to go ahead and actually wear. And certainly, I guess out there in the desert, I have no context, but I'm sure you would want something fairly comfortable to wear on your wrist when you're holding that watch on there. So kind of cool. Taylor Kitsch, poor guy, never really taken off in movies. Actually, funny enough, I watched a movie with him last night. For some reason, I wanted to rewatch the show Battleship, which was not super popular in its time, but it's kind of a cool popcorn movie with big, explosions and aliens and all those different things. But Taylor Kitsch, he was Gambit at one point in the Wolverine movies with Hugh Jackman. He's in Terminal List, Dark Wolf, Battleship. I'm sure. He was also in the big Disney flop. I'm trying to remember what that was called. John something from Mars. That was meant to be a huge movie, and unfortunately did not do so well. So cool though. He's wearing a G Shock. I'm going to go watch his show and see what it's like on the flight to Japan from that one. Okay, last story to talk about is G Shock in the Metaverse. Now, G Shock is not new to the whole NFT thing. They've done some of these watches before where they've talked about NFT watches, and I wasn't really sort of terribly excited about it. It looked kind of weird. I wasn't about to spend money on a watch which you can't go ahead and wear. But the concept of the metaverse is popular for a lot of people. And I think as somebody who works in technology, we've seen things come and go. Like if you might remember, there were things such as Second Life. And even before Second Life, there were other virtual worlds that people could go into. But these virtual worlds were where people could connect with other people. They could build experiences. Some people even transacted online and actually became very, very profitable around some of these experiences as well. And G Shock is working on some of its digital presence and bringing that into the metaverse. And one of the things that they're doing that with is a thing called the Sandbox. And the Sandbox is also a online environment. In fact, if we go over to the Sandbox game here, really what the Sandbox actually is a place where people can go ahead and actually create experiences in virtual worlds. But the difference with this one, from what I understand, and I downloaded this onto my machine to go and experience it, and I wanted to go ahead and show it to you, I had a lot of problems. I'm running a Mac Mini M4, which is a super powerful machine, and as soon as this started running, the fan was spinning up like crazy. I'd get some crashes, so tough to go ahead and actually showcase. But the Sandbox appears to be a virtual world with a physical virtual boundary, and you can buy kind of virtual real estate and create your virtual experiences inside those particular worlds. And so within that, you can go and transact and do a whole range of different things. And so the premise is if you complete certain missions or complete certain tasks, you might get some of the virtual currency. You can use that to spend on other things. So I'm probably really badly misrepresenting what the Sandbox actually does, but it is this sort of metaverse world where people are sort of coming together. Now, Casio and G Shock, some of the work they're doing on that one in their digital experience is to be able to create this Sandbox and virtual G Shock. And so you can see here, G Shock City, a virtual game space, brings the G Shock worldview to life. Enters the Sandbox metaverse, bringing with it limited edition NFTs. Visitors can explore G Shock's history through adventure-style gameplay, take on survival races, inspired by G Shock resistance testing, blah, 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 blah. But there's this whole sort of digital droid collection that you can go and get a hold of. And so here's some of those watches. There's a legendary droid. So this is obviously some of the G Shock branding here. We've got an epic droid. There's a rare droid, and if we come down here, common droid and uncommon droid. So we can see here that you can purchase some of these. In fact, all of them you can go ahead and actually purchase through this in Sandbox currency. So Sand 399, 199, and so forth. So you go in, create your avatar, and then start going ahead and building out your presence. I guess it actually is. I need to sort of investigate some more. I just had a lot of problems with this application running on a Mac. Maybe it runs a lot better on Windows, but interesting to sort of see what G Shock is doing in this space. Maybe this is part of its strategy to capture a new audience. maybe it's a part of their new marketing strategy to go ahead and actually engage a different set of users. But, it's an interesting thing. And certainly when you go ahead and look at this sandbox environment, there's lots of brands who are actually in there. I've seen digital music brands there. So what was it? It was Warner Brothers Music was actually there. Ubisoft was actually in there from a gaming point of view. I think it'll be one of those experiences that people start to build out more and more of, to be able to engage people in different ways. Maybe it's a more interactive experience versus than just having a brand in your face. So, hats off to G Shock for going out and actually trying something a little bit different from a digital world point of view, and we'll see how well they actually go. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the news for August 2025. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today to explore the world of Casio G Shock. I hope it was interesting and informative. I hope you enjoyed your time here. And with that, thank you so much. Have a great day.